have a rather unique guest today. His name is Scott Parvi, and he has an interesting relationship with Ron Wyatt and the family. And his location of expertise is Mount Sinai, which is what you see behind him. Um, and we've been talking for a little bit before we hit record, and it's been very interesting. So I just wanted to get it going. So I'm not going to drag this out. Mr. Scott, you have the floor, my friend.
All right, thank you, Brandon. Thank you for having me. I've just been looking into these discoveries of Ron for many, many years. Like I said earlier, it's been just a couple months shy of 30 years that I first came into the knowledge of Ron's discoveries and started looking into it in February '96. And then a couple years later, I ended up flying out to Nashville, Tennessee, and visiting with Ron and Mary Nell back then at his museum and at their house, and getting a lot more information and knowledge and meeting Ron and just proving to me that he was a very genuine, humble, pious man of
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
and not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, and that it was truly things, not just evidences you could see and touch and feel, but also believe in. And I think when it comes to not just Mount Sinai and the other discoveries, but the Ark of the Covenant, that we can believe his word, what he
Mm-hmm.
says about that. Even though I have been involved with testing above ground and proven that there is a tunnel, there is a cave, there is a strong gold reading underground underneath my feet with instrumentation that can detect those things. I have not physically been in the cave chamber where the Ark of the Covenant is, but I believe every word that Ron has to say about that. So, Ron, I have been to Saudi Arabia a few times, and I've been to all the discovery sites, and then a lot of the lesser known discoveries of Ron as well, like Kadesh Barnea and other places. But yeah, I've been to Noah's Ark and all over Israel, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and I've been scuba diving in the Red Sea looking for Pharaoh army's chariot parts.
So you've seen the
Um,
wheels and all that, yeah?
Yeah, I saw one I think was a coral encrusted wheel and axle on the Saudi side. I also
Mhm.
dove on the Egyptian side as well. There at Nueva Beach where they crossed, where they began the
It's kind of the
crossing.
same thing on both ends, right? You see chariot wheels all over the place, or what looks like chariot wheels, right?
Right. Well, it looks like chariot wheels, and you get some gold readings and stuff out in the
Mm.
Gulf, but it's so much coral on it. I was with a group that detected some gold out about 100 yards into the shallow surf, and we were trying to dig down into it, but it was a little over our heads by that point, and it was just hard to try to uncover anything because after 3,500 years, things are pretty well covered up by the coral and stuff, especially close to
Yeah,
shore.
yeah.
If they could get some type of subterranean vehicle, a submarine or something that could go down to the depths of the
Mm.
center, because it's about 8, 9 miles across there, and
Right.
it's a gradual descent where they cross in Nueva Beach, Egypt, over to the Saudi side.
Hmm.
And it's about, in the center, it's about 2,800 feet deep, but it has a gradual descent and a gradual uprising to the other side, which sometimes referred to as a land bridge, underwater land bridge, with hardly any obstacles on that bridge, so that they could walk across and not have things that were difficult to get around. But I think things, since coral can't grow at that depth in the center, I think we would find much more intact artifacts
Mm.
if the submersible would go and take photographs of the seafloor on that underwater land bridge at the depths of over 2,000 feet, because coral can't grow that far down. So that would be interesting if someone could ever fund that project. But yeah, so in 2014, I got back in touch with Mary Nell and go to the nitty gritty detail of how that all happened. But in 2014, I got back in touch with her and the whole organization. And then next thing you knew, I got invited with a few other people to go over to Mount Sinai. I'd be the first group over there since the Caldwells were there, pretty much. And on a business visa, 5 year multiple entry business visa through a Saudi prince, through a connection. And I was a group of 9 total of us that went there in 2016. So we were there in April of 2016. And I went back in 2017, again in 2018. And then again 2 years ago in 2023 with Mary Nell and Michelle, Ron's daughter, and their husbands, along with another guy, Jim. So that's kind of how I got into all the discoveries.
So what can you tell us about the Mount Sinai site? Now, when I watch Jim's video, and the viewers will see that link on the screen for that video on Mary Nell's channel, it is extremely informative. Um, what was your experience there? What did you find?
Well, I found just exactly what Ron said we would find and what had been published before. In 2016, we first went there. It was a hostile environment. The Bedouin police did not want us to be there. They did not want Westerners there exploring.
Mm,
There was a fence with a sign. I can send you pictures of all these things that says no trespassing, stay out, archaeological area, and all that fencing and signage was put up after Ron showed it to the Saudi
hmm.
government.
Yeah.
And, they wanted to keep people away, and there's a fence all the way around to the altar of the golden calf and the entire base of the mountain. But we kind of took it upon ourselves to kind of sneak into these areas, and we were playing hide and seek from the Bedouin police, and for the whole time we were there in 2016. I mean, it was
Wow.
crazy. It was like we were being run down by little pickup trucks with Bedouin police in them, and we were trying to outrun them. And if for some reason we came across one of them, we had a letter from a Saudi prince along with our invite letter into the country with a business visa that was kind of our get out of jail free card if we needed it, because it kind of said in Arabic, we couldn't read it, that please show courtesy and kindness to this person. And we
Mm,
each had a separate
mhm.
their individual names on it, so even though we never met the prince.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our ace in the hole if we needed it to get us out of trouble. But today, now that they've opened for tourism since the fall of 2019, you can just get a tourist visa to go in the country for the first time ever, and it's good for a year. And I've only done that once now since this last trip 2 years ago. But and the environment, since the neon and everything they're constructing around Mount Sinai and all of the discovery sites over there, that whole project that's ongoing, they've built what used to be just desert sand roads with a lot of ruts and dust, and now it's all paved.
Mhm.
It's pretty much all asphalt paved roads to Mount Sinai and the rock at Horeb, and all these different sites that we used to just struggle to get to with a four-wheel drive. Now you can just drive in with a car, because it's all paved, and they're welcoming tourists there now. So it's much different than it was,
Mm.
9.5 years ago. So,
Did you ever
but
climb to the
anyway,
top of it?
oh yeah, I've climbed a few different times up there. I've even camped out in a pup tent and a sleeping bag up just behind the Blackened Peak there on the side of the
Really?
head, on the
What
ridge
was that
there. Yeah.
like?
Well, it was very surreal. Like to think, I only spent one night up there, and of course Moses spent 40 nights up there a couple of
Yeah.
different
Yep.
times. But it was so peaceful. It gets get a little
Mm.
chilly up there. There's some elevation to it, but um, it was very surreal to be up there and just under the stars and thinking of all that took place there on that mountain and God's presence. I know the very first time I climbed it in 2016, I was the only one in the group up to that point had climbed it. In fact, it was the last day we were going to attempt to even climb the mountain and try not to be seen by the Bedouin police down below in the little village area. And, and we kind of got a late start. We went up to the cave of Elijah, and which is, see if I can do this, about the tip of my finger here. The cave of
Okay.
Elijah, where he went, um, in the Bible, it talks about after he fled from Jezebel and went on the strength of the food given to him by the angel. 40 days and 40 nights came Mount Sinai and went into the cave.
Hmm.
We went to the cave, and then the split boulders up there,
Yep.
and the little tree behind there. I got a little piece of that. And then some of us went to the plateau of the elders. Would be kind of like right there, but over the ridge behind me.
So it's
Where the
definitely above where it was charred, right?
Yeah, further on up. as you can see, that's a little bit
Okay.
darker at the top of the mountain. But the plateau of the elders, where the 70 elders went along with Moses
Hmm.
and Joshua up the mountain, and then they actually met with God and had a meal with God up there.
Right.
And it's this area that's about the size of a football field, very, very level with very few rocks, no real
It's
big.
that big. Wow.
Yeah, it's about 100 yards by 50 yards, about, and
Okay.
it's fairly flat with just a little bit of, you know, sagebrush kind of stuff, but um, very accommodating for a campground. For 70 people, and would accommodate a whole lot more than that, really. But
Hmm.
so it makes sense. That's probably where the elders hung out while Moses climbed up to the Blackened Peak, further
Yeah.
on up to meet with God. I know that when Moses was up on the mountain, that Moses wanted to see God's glory, and
Yes.
God put him in the rock,
Right.
and he passed by that Moses could see his backside, but he couldn't
Hmm.
see his face.
Correct.
And I did, when I was up there, I was looking for some cleft that event might have happened, and I found a couple different places that could maybe be a candidate for that, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I wasn't there, so it
Hmm.
would be all speculation on my part, which I don't want to delve into.
Right.
But as far as the Blackened Peak, I chunked off several different rocks, and I have several specimens at home that show that the rock that's at the top of the peak is only blackened down to the very thin crust of the rock on top, like not more than about the eighth of an inch thick. And then it's brown like all the other rocks you see surrounding me and what you see below the shadowy area of the blackened peak. And so it seemed like, and it's a theory, of course, hasn't been proven up to this point, that rock at the top of the mountain, because God came down in fire
Hmm.
and smoke on the mountain,
Yep.
and the whole time that the Israelites were there, and it scared most of the camp of the Israelites when thunder and lightning, and especially when God spoke
Yep.
the 10 words, the 10 commandments, and the people pleaded with Moses, "Don't let God speak to us directly anymore. You go get the message and bring it back to us." And so it has long been a theory that Blackened Peak was due to the presence of God, and it looks like singed rock. I'm not a geologist. I'm an aerospace engineer, so I couldn't tell you for certain that it was indeed singed on the top by God's fire,
Certainly
but
looks like it.
certainly looks like it and seems
Yeah.
plausible. All the sites around there, the Red Sea crossing site and Nueva Beach on Egypt's side, and crossing over to the Saudi side, all of those things that Ron described as a crossing site and the chariot wheels. I've been scuba diving both sides. I've seen the pillar on the Egyptian side that Solomon erected to mark the
Mhm.
location. And there was one on the Saudi side that Ron found when he was held captive in Saudi Arabia, and they took a helicopter to the beach, and they saw that one that still had the original Hebrew inscription on it from
Mm.
Solomon's time, commemorating that location. I've been there where that pillar once stood, and there was a marker there that marked the location of where it had been standing, but the Saudi government took that pillar, and we don't know what they did with it. We've talked
Yeah.
to people in town who were old and they were in that community back during that time in the early 80s, but no one knows for certain. There's theories that it was taken out into the sea and dumped, or it's in a warehouse somewhere. We spent quite a bit of time trying to investigate that, what happened to that pillar, so we could maybe get a picture of it, but we couldn't come up with it. Yeah, so we spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, but we could never come to a conclusion. But like I said, the marker where it was taken from was put there by the Saudi government. And at one time, it had a concrete base with an actual official seal
Mm.
at the base of that metal flag. But now that's all been destroyed and pretty much done away with. Last time I was there, you couldn't even find the flag anymore. It was finally
Mm.
gone. And I could still pinpoint the location because I had the GPS coordinates, and it was just the rocks that we once would help stand up the flagpole again, and they were all dispersed, and the pole itself was gone completely. But it's interesting because I've explored all over there, and it all makes sense. There are 10
Yeah.
camping sites that Israelites came to
Hmm.
before they came to Mount Sinai. And it's described in Numbers chapter 33. Succoth, and then Etham, and then you know Migdol by the sea, and then they crossed the sea, and then Mara, and then Elim, and then they camped by the sea, which I think is Magna. And I can show you a map of all the location. And then there were three more camping sites before they came to Rephidim and fought the Amalekites. And then Moses struck that 5, 6 story tall rock and split it where the water came out after he struck it
Hmm.
with his staff.
Yep.
And I've been to all those places multiple times. And there was camping in the wilderness of Sin, and then Dovka and Alush between camping by the sea, which I think is modern day Magna,
Mm.
and because they even call it the springs of Moses there, and
Yeah. Yep.
Magna. And then there's Albada, which was the ancient village of Jethro, and they
Right.
even and they call it Madian today. But even the local Saudis, the Bedouins, believe that's where Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, lived, and not too far from that village in those caves is a well, ancient well,
Right.
which is called the Well of Moses, and
That's
I've been
right.
to there too. And the wadi, the canyon that leads to the backside of Mount Sinai, is called Wadi Musa. The Valley of Moses.
Mount Valley Moses.
I
Right.
think that's where God met Moses the first time with the burning bush, was on
Right.
that western side of Mount Sinai, instead of the eastern side is where the Israelis had their encampment, where the Hebrews came and encamped in front of the mountain, was on the opposite side of that ridge, on the
Have you
east
been
side.
up to the opposite side?
On the west side.
Hmm. Where the burn
Yeah, the west side.
where he met with the burning bush?
Yeah, I've been around there. I haven't gone looking around the burning bush area. The Rephidim, the Rock of Horeb, is just a little bit north of there.
Hmm.
Not too far, a few, just 3, 4 miles, maybe something like that. Maybe 5 miles. I'm just going off the top of my head there, but yeah. So yeah, I've been around there and investigated a lot of different archaeological findings, and some um, kind of ancient tent sites with circles of rocks placed that maybe once held the outer perimeter of a tent,
Hmm.
where you come to a place where um, even at Elim, there's these circles of rocks where if you had a center tent pole and like some type of a material like canvas tent, you could make a teepee. One tent pole in the middle, and then these rocks that they would get would weight down the perimeter of the tent, so that they would just take maybe the pole and the tent with them, but leave the rocks. And the next time they camp, they would go find some more rocks to put a
Oh, and
place
just
around the
reuse
perimeter
it. Yeah. Okay.
and reuse the easy stuff that's to carry, and then leave the heavy stuff, the stones, behind, and find new stones at the next campsite.
Yeah.
So we went to different places and found these circles of rocks where it looked like large groups of people once upon a time. I mean, there weren't like hundreds of or thousands of them. Maybe they were just like the chief leaders, maybe the leaders of the 12 tribes, maybe Moses's tent, or who knows. But
Hmm.
but we've pretty much mapped out. There's an ancient map that an explorer about 1900 put together that actually shows the first campsite after the Red Sea crossing, which was Mara, but he spelled it Marah rather than what we see in our Bible, Marah, and it seems like it's in a location that would be perfect with the narrative that the Bible described when they left and they went on the journey, and they're complaining to Moses they need water after 3 days,
Right.
and then they
Yep.
came to Marah, the place of the bitter waters,
Hmm.
and then God told Moses put the stick, the branch in the water and make it sweet. And then about the equal distance is to travel to Elim, the 12 wells and the 70 palm trees. And I have documented and got GPS coordinates for all, and there's exactly 12 wells. I didn't want to go in there predisposing myself to like, I'm going to only go find 12 and then stop counting. No, I
Right.
canvassed
Yeah.
that area for hours because some of these wells are covered up by fallen palm trees and stuff,
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
didn't want to leave one stone unturned. Being someone who is a little more technically orientated, and my Boeing engineering experience as a flight test engineering analysis person, I don't want to miss any little piece of evidence that might lead to something. So I was very careful about canvassing that area looking for wells, and I found exactly 12 wells. Now these wells are now have some concrete around them, and a lot of them still have
Mhm.
water. Some of them look like they're dry, but obviously it's more modern times that they put concrete around them to keep animals and people from
Yeah.
falling into them. It didn't exist during the time of Moses. And I didn't count the 12, count for palm trees to see if there's 70 still, but I think there's more than that now. I don't know. But that would have
But
been
it's
too
still
hard.
there. It's interesting that it's
It's
still
still
there. The
there.
palm trees are there. The wells are still there. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally fits with the Bible narrative that they came there and then they next camped by the sea, which would, like it said, modern day Magna,
Mm.
and then the three sites before they went to Rephidim, and then they came to Mount Sinai and camped there. And I've been all around that, combing the area, looking all those locations. Like I said, Jethro's caves, and that's about 20 miles. Jethro's village to where I think the burning bush was on the backside, the west side of Mount Sinai, is about 20 miles. So it's
That's
certainly
a
within
lot
the
farther than I thought.
realm of possibility that Moses was tending to the flocks of Jethro, of
Mm.
course, when he went there and saw the burning bush. And so, that wasn't unfeasible for him to travel that far, I think, from his father-in-law to tend to his flocks when looking for things for the flocks to eat. But some people say, because that's always been known, because when the Bible talks about Moses fled from Pharaoh, went to the land of Midian, everyone 100% agree that Midian is northwest Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But then people believe that the real Mount Sinai is on the southern tip of the Sinai Peninsula, which can't be the case whatsoever
It doesn't line up at all.
because that's not never has been Midian,
Right.
and not to mention the fact that it got declared as Mount Sinai. The fourth century Emperor Constantine's mother Helena,
Hmm.
you know,
Exactly.
had a dream and decided, oh, this is it. I'll build a church here. And then 2 centuries later, I think the Emperor Justinian had a monastery built there.
Yeah.
It's been venerated through the Roman Catholic Church ever since that is the real Mount Sinai. So, um, but it's a false location. If you ask the
I
local
agree.
Bedouins in Saudi Arabia, they say Jebel Musahena, which means in Arabic, Mountain of Moses is here.
Right.
They believe this peak to my side here is the Mountain of Moses, or i.e. Mount Sinai.
But it doesn't fit the biblical description of it, so it can't possibly be.
Um, you mean the one that's inside in the Sinai Peninsula?
The false one that
Yeah,
Constantine,
the false
yeah,
one. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no evidence. There was
right,
zero
yeah,
evidence there at that one in the Sinai Peninsula.
hmm,
I actually haven't personally been there yet. I've seen a lot of pictures and photos and talked to people who've been there, but I hear there's nowhere anywhere that up to maybe 2 million Hebrews, along with the mixed multitude,
right.
could have
It's too
camped.
small.
It's too small.
Hmm.
It's too short.
Yeah,
There's no archaeological evidence anywhere. It's just not at all possible. Not like what I've got here.
we have
That
all the evidence there now because we
all
have
the
the
evidence.
altar. We have where they were breeding the sheep or the animals over for sacrifice. So we have all of that there.
Yep, the altar where they sacrificed the animals to Yahweh. The base of the mountain is there. The remnants of the altar of the golden calf is
Yep.
there. Yeah, and it has all the ancient Egyptian petroglyphs of
Hmm.
the cow god and the bull god,
Yep.
Hathor and Apis. And so totally, and there's those particular petroglyphs inscriptions are not found anywhere else in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabian archaeologists were kind of shocked to see that when it was pointed out to them back.
But it also has
100%.
evidence that hard metals were melted there, that were smelted there, like gold. What Jim found the evidence of where they molded the gold and making the casting for the Ark of the Covenant. Did you see any of that?
Yeah.
Like the pomegranates
Oh, yeah.
and the wings?
Yeah, that's just a little bit further east from
Hmm.
the altar of the golden calf, and there's a little desert road that leads right by there, and just above that road and up on a ridge, a little plateau, is where these things we believe to be kilns and things where they could produce a very strong heat to melt
Hmm.
down gold and silver and bronze from all the jewelry that they escaped Egypt with,
Right.
to all the furnishings. Of course, God planned this all ahead of time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That that He was planning for them to build all the furnishings for the first tabernacle, the wilderness tabernacle. The altar of incense, the table of showbread, the menorah, and of course the Ark of the Covenant, and all the other things that went along with it. So they definitely needed to have some place to do that, and this totally makes sense. And it's right on the edge of the camp,
Mhm.
the very west edge of the camp. In fact, and up on that plateau, you have a beautiful view of the mountain, like you see behind me right
Right.
now,
Yeah.
on that little plateau. And so it totally fits with the biblical narrative again, like everything else. The altar of the golden calf, and even the remnants of a lake, river that came out of the valley just to the south of the Blackened Peak, which is
Hmm.
a little off the screen to my one side there, but I have pictures of all these things too. But yeah, and as well as being there's a graveyard not too far, it's a couple miles away, but there's a graveyard. Of course, after the golden calf incident, the Levites helped Moses, and they basically executed 3,000 of the ones that
That's
were
right.
behind the golden calf thing, and they buried them all at once. Well, lidar. What I've been told, and I haven't seen the evidence myself, that the lidar from space, from satellites, looking at that area shows the soil of that graveyard was all disturbed at one time. So it
Mm.
wasn't like there were better ones that would bury their ancestors and decades later bury another ancestor and
Hmm.
whatever. No, it was all dug up at once and all became a huge cemetery all at one time. So it made sense that they buried all 3,000 of those who died as a result of the Golden Calf incident all at one location in one place with several, headstones placed, standing stones to mark grave
Hmm.
sites all over that area. And that's also another area that's fenced off and said archaeological area, stay out
Right.
by the side of the so.
So, have you had any kind of research done as far as testing? Have you had any samples tested from any of the locations as far as that you've been to? And if so, what were the results?
No, I personally have not taken anything to a laboratory, had it
Okay.
tested. Didn't have that much. I've got some rock samples from the Blackened Peak.
Hmm.
I've never had it tested. I've got a piece of the tree in between the split boulders there. But again, I haven't had it tested. I'm not sure why I haven't tested. But even the sulfur balls, I have a huge jar of brimstone in my closet, and I haven't had that tested either. All these things have been tested by other people.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I didn't feel like I needed to. They didn't like follow in their footsteps and get the same
Gotcha.
result. Um, so no, I haven't not personally had anything tested in the laboratory.
So, as far as your knowledge, the stuff that the people actually have had tested, are you aware of what those results were? Did it show anything um, worth noting?
Well, I know as far as Mount Sinai, I don't know if anybody's had that blackened thin layer tested or not that I recall right now, or who that was, if it has been done. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd have to dig around for that to see if someone has actually tested to see, has this rock been burnt or is this just natural geological formation, that you can just have a very black surface coat of black and everything below that surface coat will be brown. But then just below that, it's all brown, below the Blackened Peak. I don't know that anybody's actually done that test. I know obviously, talking about the different site, this ash remains of Sodom and Gomorrah, that's all been tested. The brimstone,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
sulfur, 5.7% or higher of pure sulfur. But um, yeah, so
Now,
as far as,
the
go ahead.
video that I saw with Jim on Mary Nell's, I can't remember if it was him that tested or if he sent it off somewhere, but they had gathered some water in that little thing to where it says that he pulverized the gold down into dust, and he put it in the water and he made him drink it. Well, they
Yeah,
got samples of that, and they were actually able to get samples residue of gold, which
yeah, I think that
just
was during the time Ron did that test, I believe. I don't think anybody's done that
okay.
recently.
Yeah,
But then on top,
I can't remember how he presented it. It's been a little while since I watched that video, but they at some point tests were made of that particular altar. It did come back showing that it had gold remnants in it. So whether it was Ron or somebody else, yeah.
yeah, I've got photos of that very spot. It looks like it's the top of that one rock on the top of the
Hmm.
altar calf is ground down. It's kind of concave.
Yep.
It's a little got a depression there. Yep, and I've been up there and taken some close photographs. But apparently, after a rain, when it's got a little water in it, it will show a little bit of glitter, a little teeny bit of reflection of
Yeah, I think
gold,
he did
like
that
gold
on the video. Yep.
dust. Gold dust. Yeah, if you just get it wet, take your bottle of water and spray it the
Hmm.
top of that with your water bottle, and if the sun's just right, it'll maybe reflect just a little teeny bit of glimmering. And when Ron was there, down in between those massive boulders, it would take some very large equipment to move them out of the way to get down in there. But he had equipment that tested for gold and silver, and he got a very strong gold
Oh
reading
yeah.
down
Yeah.
at the base of that pile of gigantic
I
boulders.
bet you there's a lot of gold down there. I wouldn't
Right.
mess with it. Personally, I would leave it alone because that's just something
Right.
that you don't really want to mess with.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But so how big would you say that altar was? I know in the video it looked pretty massive, but how big would you say it was?
The altar of the golden calf.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just going by memory, I didn't have a tape measure with me, but
Yeah, no, just estimates, just estimates.
based on like being on a football field as a youth and kind of being able to judge, 20,
Hmm.
30 yards or whatever. Yeah, I would say the span of the base is probably, probably a good 70, 80 feet, maybe. I don't know.
Really?
60 to 80 feet, I think, by the
Yeah.
time you walk all the way, know, and maybe slightly less than that. I'm just kind of going from memory
Yeah.
here. You know, you walk around the whole perimeter of it, but the boulders are fairly spaced out at the bottom, and then they get closer and closer as you get to the top. But yeah, I'd say it's at least 50 feet at the base,
That's impressive.
not larger. Yeah.
How long did it take you to climb it? The time that you did climb, I'm sure you did a couple times, but how long did it actually take you, or did you do it in increments?
All right. Now talking about Mount Sinai as
Yep,
opposed to
Mount
the altar
Sinai.
of Gilgal. Yeah. It took me that first time I went there in 2016. I think I was mentioning it earlier, but um, most of our group, we got a late start and we went up to the cave of Elijah and the plateau of the elders, and then people were like, "Oh, it's about an hour from sundown." Everybody started heading back to the vehicle down back towards the altar of sacrifice and down at the base of the mountain, back closer to where our SUVs were parked, and uh, and I was determined because that was on our tour guide's itinerary. That was the last day we were going to spend at Mount Sinai, and we were going to go investigate some other things, and then that was the end of the trip. So I was like, I'm determined to get to the top of that mountain, and I was in good enough shape to do so. So I just left everybody. Everybody was kind of scattered around anyway, doing their own thing up around this area, pretty much. Where the
Hmm.
Elijah's Cave is, and that's those two split boulders and all that. But I just started climbing up the mountain just as fast as I could, and I just top and take a breather about for 30 seconds, and then just go forward again. I get up there. I got a picture of me with the sun just on the horizon and going down.
Mm.
And I got a picture. I got to the top, and I ended up miraculously coming out in the thickness of darkness. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face after it got dark after sunset. And I came out with just an iPhone 5 as a flashlight. I had a dive light in my backpack the day before, just in case, but I didn't remember taking it out. I thought for sure it was in there, and it was a very bright flashlight that I used for the diving part, looking
Mm.
for cherry parts and stuff. And I thought for sure it was in there. So once it got dark, I was like, "Oh, I'll just grab my flashlight," and I looking through through with braille through my backpack for that flashlight, and like, it's not here. And I didn't
Uh-oh.
remember taking it out. It was back in the hotel room. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I've got my iPhone 5, which was old and battery life stunk on it. And I turned that light on it, and it lasted 5 minutes, and the battery was dead. Well, I'm like, I'm either camping out here with nothing tonight up on the mountain, or I'm going to have plan B. So I ended up I had a little charge stick, one of the little mini charge sticks I had in my backpack that you just
Mm.
connect your
Hmm. Yeah.
phone charging board to with USB. And I had charged up that charge stick ahead of time, and I plugged that into my phone, plugged into that, and then my phone came back alive, and I was able to use the flashlight again from my phone. And I came out. It took me at least 2 or 3 hours after dark before
Mm.
I ended up coming out through the valley to the south where the water would have come down, but there was massive boulders in that valley, and I would find myself many times looking down 14 feet to this ground below me. How am I going to get down that? I don't have any rappel equipment, mountain climbing equipment to get out off these boulders. So I'd keep having to find alternate routes around boulders. It took me forever to get out of there because my flashlight didn't shine very far in front of me,
Mm.
really.
Yep.
It was really on eagle's wings. It was God that brought me out of there safely.
Mm.
I could have been scorpions and snakes or anything else that could have taken me out in the middle of the
Which
night up
there
there.
are. There's a lot of that up
There
there.
are. In fact,
Yeah.
when I told you earlier, I camped out in 2018. Me and three other guys camped out on just behind the Blackened Peak there up on the ridge overnight. And at our camp on the North Valley, other side, um, just as we broke camp, there was a huge scorpion on a rock, just as we were starting our hike. And then we also came across snakes two other times on that trip. One was in our campsite by the Rock of Horeb, where we were also trying to be sneaky and hiding in this little enclave canyon to hide from Bedouin police so they wouldn't see us at the Rock of Horeb. And there was a snake that came in the middle of the night right by our little campfire. And there was another one at that pillar marker for the on the Saudi side that marked the pillar that Moses erected for the Red Sea crossing on the Saudi side. There was a snake as I was arranging the rocks with my hand down on the rocks and trying to stand the pole up. There was I think it was a coral snake. It was something down in there, and my friend says, "Hey Scott, look at that!" I heard my hand right down next to that snake,
Mm.
and I didn't even see it at the time. I was just trying to get these rocks set up so we could put the flagpole that marked the pillar crossing location, stand it back up because it would have been toppled over, and the snake didn't bite me. My hand was right down
Mm.
by its head, and I couldn't believe it. And that all happened on that one trip in 2018. Two snakes and a scorpion,
That's
and
amazing.
just what the Bible says that God would protect us from, the snakes and the scorpions. And He definitely protected me that trip from
That's really cool.
coming out there. But the people waiting for me for 3 hours after dark, they had no idea what happened to me.
All right.
The
Yeah.
rest of the and they had been praying for me and driving around and looking for me. And then they saw in the distance, as I approached the altar of Moses and Aaron, the sacrifice area, at a few hundred yards away, they could see the glimmer of my flashlight from my phone, and like, hey, maybe that's Scott. And then they were, I just kept working my way over there, and then we all rejoiced. I came back, but my legs were toast because I came down as
Oh, I
fast as I could,
bet.
and I brought
Yeah.
everybody a souvenir rock. We ended up, a few of us ended up climbing the mountain. I think four of us a few days later. It wasn't part of the itinerary, but we did it again. So I climbed up there a second time that one trip, and then subsequent trips climbed back up there. But so yes, yes,
So I
totally
know there had to
believe this.
be. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask. I mean, for me, I've never been there, but if I went, I would definitely take a few moments, to kind of really take in where I really am. I'm sure that you must have done that at some point. And what was your experience? Did you ever have a moment where you just kind of stopped and just kind of took in where you are, the significance of that?
Oh yeah, it's very overwhelming. You're standing there and thinking back to those Bible stories you read, and
Hmm.
Exodus, the Numbers, and you think I'm standing right where all that happened,
Right.
and it is, you know, it is very very encompassing, spiritually encompassing your entire being. That wow, I am actually at this location where these things happen, and you're trying to envision it. Try like, where did Moses, when he came down the mountain and saw that the people were dancing around the golden calf, and he got
Yep.
mad and threw down those first two stone tablets with the
Yep.
Ten Commandments? And I have looked for those just to try to find a fragment of those broken pieces. But of course, we can only just try to, speculate where he might have been standing when he broke
Yeah.
them, and maybe they picked up all those pieces before they left. I don't even
That's
know,
true.
but
Yeah.
it's not recorded in the Bible. So, but I definitely look for them and to see if I could find a piece of it anywhere. But yeah, I mean, the first time went in there, the adrenaline was so high because we had been warned by our tour guide who arranged this whole visa thing through a Saudi prince. He
Hmm.
said, be on high alert because the one time he went there prior to this visit, he uh, he actually got detained, his camera taken away, and was in the prison there, the little
Mm.
desert prison for a bit, detained and questioned why he's there because they didn't want Westerners there at that time. And so he had us all kind of amped up on being wary of that. And first time we went in there, it was like running real fast. We don't see anybody. Okay, roll down the windows 6 inches, take pictures, and go flying out of there as fast as this SUV would go down the desert highway. It was kind of crazy, something out of a movie or something.
Right.
But the
Exactly.
adrenaline was very high the very, very, very first time I was there because we were all worried that we're going to get caught and detained, and
Yep.
what would happen next. But yeah, but certainly being up there on the ridge, away from and not being seen by people below, it's not a factor now. They allow you in there and they don't make a big deal of it like they did in 2016 or 17 or 18 for that matter.
So strange. Just a few
But
years ago, they wouldn't let it. Now they do.
yep, yep, that's exactly right. But
So quickly, how it can all change and turn around.
yep, absolutely. I think it's all in God's hands. In His
Yes.
sovereignty
Yeah.
and His timing. These things are slowly being revealed to the world. More and more people are getting information through
Yes.
people like you that do your podcast, do your recordings. Someone who hasn't caught wind of it on
Hmm.
another YouTube channel will maybe find it on yours. And God's got all the pieces of the puzzle of
Right.
these end times
Yep.
all figured out. And everything is happening in accordance with His will and timing. And I think the time of the end of all things is not too distant future. Of course, we hear that from a lot of different people and a lot of different standpoints,
Oh
but
yeah. Oh yeah.
everyone has their own theory of that. And I could go into a dissertation about that as well, which I'll refrain from doing at this point in time.